We've all been there, caught in that endless loop of thoughts, analyzing every text, replaying every conversation, and wondering what it all means. Overthinking is like this invisible wall that sneaks in between you and real connection. It tricks you into believing that if you just figure everything out perfectly, you'll finally find the right person or the perfect moment. But here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't bring you closer to someone, it pushes you further away. The key to genuine connection isn't in your head, it's in your heart, your presence, and your willingness to show up as you are. Today, let's talk about how to stop the mental noise and start creating real, effortless connections that feel exciting, natural, and alive. Overthinking is one of the biggest barriers to forming genuine connections with others, especially in dating. When you find yourself caught in the spiral of analyzing every word, every message, every glance, you're no longer engaging with the person in front of you. You're trapped inside your own mind. It's important to realize that overthinking doesn't bring you closer to someone. In fact, it creates distance. It builds invisible walls between you and the person you want to connect with. Because connection isn't about intellectual gymnastics or trying to solve some emotional puzzle. It's about being present and open in the moment. When your mind is racing, dissecting, and questioning everything, your energy changes. You become tense, guarded, and distracted. That tension is felt by the other person, even if you don't realize it consciously. Instead of feeling warmth and openness, they pick up on your hesitation and anxiety, which can make them feel uncertain or distant in response. One of the biggest misconceptions about dating and connection is that you have to be perfect, say the right thing, look a certain way, or behave in a way that guarantees approval. Overthinking feeds this illusion by convincing you that if you just plan your words carefully enough or analyze the signs closely, you'll unlock the secret to winning someone over. But connection is never about perfection or control. It's about authenticity and presence. When you are overly focused on what you're going to say next or how you're being perceived, you stop listening. You miss the little nuances and genuine moments that build trust and intimacy. Real connection happens when you are fully tuned in to the other person, not when you're trapped inside your head. Another problem with overthinking is that it causes you to misinterpret or magnify small details out of proportion. A delayed text, a vague response, or a neutral expression can become a mountain of what-ifs in your mind. You start inventing stories to explain these tiny behaviors, often jumping to worst-case scenarios that trigger anxiety and self-doubt. But the truth is, most of these little things have nothing to do with you or the potential of your connection. People are complicated, distracted, and sometimes imperfect in their communication. They might be busy, tired, or caught up in their own issues. Overthinking robs you of the ability to see things clearly and respond in a calm, confident way because you're reacting to imagined problems instead of the reality in front of you. The antidote to this is presence. Being present means letting go of the constant chatter in your mind and shifting your attention to what's actually happening. It means focusing on the person in front of you, their words, their energy, and the moment you're sharing together. Presence invites connection because it signals to the other person that you're genuinely interested and engaged. It's a powerful way to break down barriers and foster intimacy. When you stop trying to control the situation or predict the outcome, you open space for something real to emerge naturally. Learning to be present also requires self-compassion. Overthinking often comes from a place of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, or fear of making a mistake. These fears can feel overwhelming, but they are also normal and human. Instead of beating yourself up for overthinking, acknowledge it without judgment and gently remind yourself that it's okay to be imperfect. Connection doesn't require you to be flawless. It requires you to be human. When you allow yourself that grace, you lower the walls you've built and create room for authentic connection. It's also helpful to recognize that overthinking is often a habit, a pattern you've developed to try and feel safe in uncertain situations. But habits can be changed with practice. One practical way to do this is to shift your focus from your internal thoughts to your external experience. Pay attention to your breath, your senses, and the other person's presence. Notice the sound of their voice, the way they smile, the energy they bring. This mindfulness anchors you in the moment and quiets the mental noise. Remember, connection is an experience, not a checklist. It's not about getting everything right or decoding every signal perfectly. It's about sharing moments with someone else in a way that feels alive and meaningful. When you stop overthinking, you make space for spontaneity, humor, and vulnerability, things that build true connection. Instead of second-guessing your words or actions, you allow the interaction to flow naturally, which makes both of you feel more comfortable and open. Ultimately, overthinking steals your presence and your power. It makes dating feel like a test to be passed, rather than an opportunity to explore, learn, and connect. But the truth is, the people you want to attract don't want a polished version of you. They want the real you. When you stop overanalyzing and start showing up as yourself, your energy shifts. You become more relaxed, magnetic, and approachable. This is when connection happens effortlessly, because you're no longer trying to be someone else. You're simply being fully present and fully you. And that is the most attractive thing anyone can bring to the table. Trying to control how you come across or what's going to happen next in dating is one of the biggest traps that keeps you stuck and disconnected. We all want to feel safe and in control, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. But the truth is, real connection can't be manufactured or managed by playing it safe or putting on a facade. Vulnerability is the bridge that brings two people closer. Yet it's the very thing most people run away from because it feels risky. We fear being seen as too much, too needy, or too flawed. But the paradox is that the moment you allow yourself to be vulnerable, showing your real thoughts, your genuine emotions, your imperfect self, you invite the other person to drop their guard too. Vulnerability is magnetic because it signals authenticity and courage. It says, here I am, fully me, and I'm willing to share that with you. When you're not trying to control or script the interaction, you create space for something real and unforced to emerge. The reason we try so hard to control is that we confuse vulnerability with weakness, but it's actually a form of strength. Being vulnerable means you're willing to be seen, even if there's a chance you might be rejected or misunderstood. That takes bravery, and it sends a powerful message that you are confident enough to be yourself no matter what happens. This confidence is far more attractive than any rehearsed line or calculated move. It shows that you trust yourself and the process enough to take emotional risks. When you stop controlling and start opening up, you allow the connection to deepen because it's no longer based on performance or pretense. Instead, it's based on genuine exchange and emotional honesty. When you put on a mask or try to control every detail, you're essentially telling the other person that you don't trust them to see your true self, and that lack of trust creates distance. Connection requires a certain level of surrender, a willingness to show up without guarantees or scripts. It's not about oversharing or dumping all your baggage at once. It's about allowing yourself to be human with all the complexity and vulnerability that entail. This openness encourages the other person to do the same, creating a mutual space where both of you feel safe to be authentic. That's where trust and intimacy start to build. Control often looks like trying to predict how the other person will respond and then tailoring your behavior to get the right reaction. Maybe you hold back your opinions because you're worried they won't agree. Maybe you play it cool because you fear coming on too strong. Or maybe you rehearse every conversation in your head so that you won't say the wrong thing. While these tactics might feel protective in the moment, they actually prevent you from forming a genuine bond. The energy becomes transactional, and the interaction feels less like a connection and more like a negotiation. People can sense when you're not fully present or when you're hiding behind a facade, and it creates a subtle but real barrier. Learning to embrace vulnerability takes practice. It starts with small moments, sharing a personal story, expressing how you really feel, or admitting when you're nervous. These small acts of courage build a foundation of trust, not just with the other person, but within yourself. You start to see that being vulnerable doesn't lead to disaster. It leads to deeper understanding and connection. And even if it doesn't lead to the outcome you hoped for, you've still honored your truth and shown up fully, which is invaluable. It's also important to remember that vulnerability is not about oversharing too soon or dumping emotional baggage prematurely. It's about being appropriate and honest. You don't have to reveal everything all at once, but you do need to allow yourself to be seen in your humanity. When you do this, you create a safe space for the other person to respond authentically as well. That mutual openness fosters a sense of closeness that no amount of control or over-planning can replicate. Many people avoid vulnerability because they fear rejection, but rejection is often not personal. It's about fit and timing. When you're vulnerable, you filter out the people who aren't willing or able to meet you where you are. This can be painful, but it also saves you from investing energy in connections that aren't right for you. Being vulnerable means you attract people who value the real you, not a version you've crafted to gain approval. When you stop trying to control how you come across, you also release yourself from the exhausting cycle of worrying about every detail. You stop spinning stories in your head about what he might be thinking or why he didn't text back immediately. Instead, you show up with a genuine smile, open body language, and honest conversation. This authenticity creates a powerful magnetic energy that invites connection. You become approachable, relatable, and unforgettable, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Ultimately, connection is about presence and authenticity, not control. The moment you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you open the door to deeper intimacy and mutual understanding. You stop being an actor playing a role and start being a human engaging with another human. That's when dating stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like an adventure, a shared journey where both people can be themselves and discover something beautiful together. Vulnerability isn't just a tool for connection, it's the foundation for every meaningful relationship you'll ever have. One of the most common reasons people get stuck in dating anxiety is their desperate need to control the future. Trying to predict where things are heading, what someone's intentions are, and how fast the relationship should progress. This urge to know everything up front creates unnecessary pressure on both you and the connection. When you rush to label a relationship or push for clarity too soon, you miss out on the natural flow of getting to know someone and the beautiful unpredictability of human connection. The truth is, not everything needs to be figured out right away. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply let it unfold. Letting things unfold means trusting the process without forcing outcomes. It means showing up fully in each moment without obsessing over what comes next. When you stop trying to script the entire journey, you allow space for genuine connection to grow organically. This doesn't mean you're passive or indifferent. It means you're patient and present. You're willing to engage without a checklist or an agenda, which ironically makes the experience less stressful and more enjoyable. When you release the need to control the timeline or the label, you give both yourself and the other person room to breathe and be authentic. This mindset shift is powerful because it transforms your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of fearing it, you accept that uncertainty is a natural part of dating and connection. It's impossible to predict exactly how someone will feel or what the future holds, and trying to do so only fuels anxiety. Letting it unfold invites you to be curious rather than anxious. You become an observer rather than a judge, paying attention to how the relationship evolves instead of forcing it into a predetermined shape. This curiosity opens you up to the present moment and helps you appreciate the little steps that build towards something meaningful. When you allow the connection to unfold naturally, you also develop a clearer sense of what feels right and what doesn't. By rushing to define things early, you might overlook red flags or ignore your intuition because you're so focused on making it work or getting reassurance. But when you slow down and observe, you start to notice patterns in behavior, consistency in actions, and genuine alignment. These insights come not from pressure or expectation, but from relaxed attention. You see the relationship for what it truly is, not what you wish it could be. Another important aspect of letting things unfold is accepting that sometimes a connection may not evolve into a relationship, and that's okay. Not every date leads to love, and not every connection is meant to last. By releasing the need to control, you become more open to these outcomes without taking them personally. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt or desperation when something doesn't progress, you recognize it as part of the natural rhythm of dating. Some connections serve as lessons, some as experiences, and some as stepping stones toward finding the right person. When you embrace this, you free yourself from the burden of forcing things to fit a certain narrative. This approach also encourages you to be more authentic. When you're not trying to rush or manipulate the process, you can relax into who you are and allow your true self to shine. Authenticity is magnetic because it invites others to respond to the real you, not a performance or idealized version. When you let things unfold, you give yourself permission to express your thoughts, feelings, and desires honestly, creating a foundation of trust and openness that's essential for a lasting connection. It's important to balance letting things unfold with maintaining your own standards and boundaries. Letting go of control doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or ignoring your needs. It means being patient with the pace of connection while staying clear on what you value and won't compromise. This balance keeps you grounded and empowered rather than anxious or desperate. It also helps you avoid rushing into something that isn't aligned with your well-being or values simply because you feel pressured to make it work. Letting it unfold is ultimately about surrendering to the mystery of human connection. It means embracing the unknown with curiosity, trust, and openness instead of fear. It invites you to engage fully in the present moment rather than living in the future or the what-ifs. When you practice this, you find a sense of peace and calm that reduces anxiety and enhances your ability to connect deeply. You become more confident because you're no longer chasing a predetermined outcome. You're allowing something real and beautiful to emerge naturally. In this space of trust and patience, dating stops feeling like a test or a race and becomes a journey of discovery. You meet people with fresh eyes and an open heart, free from the weight of expectations or pressure. You enjoy each interaction for what it is, appreciating the nuances and the possibilities without clinging to certainty. This freedom invites genuine connection, and when it happens, it feels effortless and right. Ultimately, letting things unfold is an invitation to trust yourself and the process of dating. It's about honoring the pace of the connection and recognizing that meaningful relationships are built over time, not forced in a moment. When you stop trying to control the future and start embracing the present, you transform your dating experience from one filled with anxiety into one filled with calm, curiosity, and hope. Setting boundaries around your time is one of the most powerful ways to reduce dating anxiety and protect your emotional well-being. When you truly value your time, you create a natural filter that keeps you from wasting energy on people or situations that don't serve you. Your time is one of your most precious resources, more valuable than beauty, charm, or even money, because once it's gone, you can't get it back. Understanding this gives you a clear perspective on why it's so important to be selective about who you invest your time in, especially in the early stages of dating, where so much uncertainty and emotional risk exist. When you internalize the principle that my time matters, you start to see dating through a different lens. Instead of trying to squeeze every moment out of an inconsistent connection or convincing yourself that slow responses or mixed signals are normal, you become more discerning. You stop making excuses for people who don't prioritize you or who create unnecessary drama. This clarity naturally reduces anxiety because you're no longer caught in a cycle of overanalyzing ambiguous behavior or hoping for something to change. You recognize that when someone is truly interested and invested, their actions will reflect that. They will show up consistently and respect your availability. The value you place on your time also helps you set firm boundaries. You no longer tolerate being left waiting for days for a text or rearranging your life around someone who doesn't show up reliably. Boundaries are not walls, they are lines of self-respect. They communicate to others that your time and attention are not to be taken lightly. This shifts the dynamic in dating from one where you are chasing validation or approval to one where you lead with confidence and self-worth. When you make it clear that you won't accept crumbs or uncertainty, people start to treat you differently because they understand your standards are high and non-negotiable. Another key aspect of valuing your time is recognizing when to walk away. Many women stay in situations that cause anxiety because they fear losing a potential connection or don't want to feel like they've wasted their effort. But staying in limbo drains your energy and clouds your judgment. When you honor your time, you understand that walking away is not failure, it's a form of empowerment. It's choosing peace over confusion. clarity over chaos. You no longer feel trapped by uncertainty or mixed signals because you know that you have the power to exit any situation that doesn't honor your value. This mindset also helps you avoid falling into the trap of overthinking. When your time is sacred, you don't spend hours analyzing every message or trying to decode vague texts. You become less reactive and more proactive. Instead of reacting emotionally to every perceived slight, you maintain emotional clarity. You assess whether the other person's behavior matches your expectations and decide if it's worth your continued investment. If it's not, you don't spiral into anxiety. You simply move on with calm and confidence. Valuing your time also encourages you to focus on what truly matters in a relationship. Instead of getting caught up in superficial qualities or short-term excitement, you prioritize consistency, respect, and mutual effort. You look for someone who not only attracts you, but also respects your boundaries and matches your pace. This clarity helps you avoid wasting time on people who are not aligned with your values or goals. Importantly, when you respect your own time, you teach others how to treat you. The energy you put out sets a standard for how you want to be treated. If you allow yourself to be available 24/7 to someone who is only sporadically interested, you send a message that your time isn't valuable. But when you hold firm boundaries and say no to situations that don't serve you, you communicate self-worth and demand respect. This naturally attracts people who appreciate and reciprocate your energy, reducing the emotional roller coaster and anxiety often associated with dating. It's also worth noting that valuing your time doesn't mean you're dismissive or unkind. It means you're clear, honest, and compassionate with yourself. You acknowledge that your well-being depends on how you manage your energy and attention. This clarity frees you from the exhausting cycle of trying to please others or fix situations that aren't right for you. Instead, you focus on being present with people who genuinely want to be in your life. Ultimately, when you truly believe that your time matters, dating stops feeling like a game of endurance or desperation. It becomes a process of mutual respect and joy. You stop tolerating behaviors that cause anxiety and start creating space for connections that bring you peace and excitement. This shift from scarcity to abundance changes your entire dating experience because you're no longer chasing approval, you're inviting meaningful connection on your own terms. This boundary of valuing your time becomes a powerful shield against the anxiety of the unknown, the frustration of mixed signals, and the pain of rejection. It empowers you to make decisions from a place of calm clarity rather than fear or desperation. And in doing so, you reclaim your emotional power and create a foundation for relationships that are built on respect, honesty, and genuine connection. Having the inner certainty that I can leave is one of the most liberating and powerful mindsets you can cultivate when dating. It acts as your emotional safety net, your invisible shield against anxiety and insecurity. So often, dating anxiety arises when we feel trapped in the fear of losing someone's attention, trapped by the uncertainty of a situation, or trapped by the hope that things will change if we just try harder or wait longer. But the belief that you always have the freedom to walk away dismantles that feeling of entrapment and gives you a profound sense of control over your emotional well-being. When you remind yourself, I can leave, you tap into a deep well of self-respect and self-protection. It means you recognize that no matter how enticing or comfortable a connection might seem, it should never come at the cost of your peace of mind. You don't have to stay in a relationship, a conversation, or a dynamic that drains you emotionally, mentally, or physically. This awareness creates a powerful boundary that prevents you from settling for less than you deserve or tolerating behaviors that make you feel uneasy. This mindset is not about being cold or dismissive. It's about honoring your feelings and trusting your intuition. Often we ignore those subtle nudges inside us that tell us something isn't quite right because we fear being alone or fear losing a potential connection. But I Can Leave encourages you to listen to that inner voice without guilt or hesitation. If something feels off, you have permission to step away. You don't need closure from the other person, nor do you need their explanation or approval. Your own sense of discomfort is enough reason to protect yourself and walk away. Understanding that you can leave gives you immense emotional freedom. It shifts your dating experience from one of desperation or anxious attachment to one of calm confidence. When you know you have an exit, you stop clinging to moments, texts, or interactions that don't serve you. You stop trying to fix or force situations that aren't working because you're not afraid of what might happen if you let go. This reduces anxiety significantly because you're no longer dependent on the other person's validation or attention to feel secure. This sense of freedom also impacts how you show up in dating. When you're not desperate to hold on, you become more relaxed and authentic. You're not performing or overanalyzing every word or gesture to avoid losing their interest. Instead, you engage with curiosity and openness, confident that your worth is not tied to their approval. This ease and authenticity make you more attractive because people are naturally drawn to those who are secure in themselves and their boundaries. Moreover, embracing I can lead helps you avoid the trap of investing too much too soon. It reminds you that every connection is a choice, not a necessity. You don't have to stay in a situationship or relationship that's ambiguous or painful just because you've already invested time and energy. Instead, you can make conscious decisions about where to place your attention and affection, preserving your emotional resources for people who truly respect and value you. This mindset also gives you clarity about the kind of treatment you deserve. If someone repeatedly causes you stress, confusion, or heartbreak, you recognize that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but a sign that the connection isn't right. I can leave empowers you to say no to patterns that don't honor your needs, no to mixed signals, and no to being an option rather than a priority. It transforms your experience from hoping to be chosen to choosing for yourself, fostering a sense of empowerment that cuts through anxiety. In addition, the ability to leave doesn't mean you are emotionally detached or unwilling to invest in relationships. On the contrary, it means you approach connections with healthy boundaries and self-awareness. You can fully engage, care deeply, and be vulnerable without losing yourself or your peace. This balance is essential for creating genuine intimacy built on mutual respect and trust rather than fear or dependency. When you internalize I can leave, you also cultivate resilience. You become less affected by rejection or disappointment because you know that your value is not tied to someone else's decision to stay or leave. You are in control of your emotional landscape. This resilience makes it easier to navigate the ups and downs of dating without spiraling into anxiety or self-doubt. Ultimately, I can leave is a mindset that puts your emotional well-being front and center. It reminds you that you are never stuck, never obligated, and always free to choose what's best for you. This freedom is the foundation of calm confidence in dating. It allows you to show up fully, be yourself, and engage with others from a place of strength rather than fear. Knowing you can leave at any time means you never have to settle, and you always have the power to protect your peace and pursue the love you truly deserve. One of the most freeing realizations you can have in dating is understanding that this isn't personal. This simple phrase holds the power to dismantle much of the anxiety and self-doubt that often arise when someone doesn't respond the way you hope, pulls away, or disappears altogether. When you internalize that someone's behavior is not a direct reflection of your worth, it creates emotional distance that protects you from unnecessary pain and confusion. It reminds you that their actions say more about where they are in their own journey than about anything you did or didn't do. Dating can often feel like a deeply personal experience, and it's natural to internalize rejection or indifference as proof of personal failure. When he doesn't reply, it's easy to spiral into questioning what you said wrong or if you're somehow not enough. When he seems distant, you might wonder if you came on too strong or if there's something about you that pushes him away. But the truth is, most people operate from their own fears, insecurities, and life circumstances which have very little to do with you. They might be emotionally unavailable, distracted, or simply not ready to be honest with themselves or others. None of that reflects your value or lovability. By adopting the mindset that this isn't personal, you create a healthy separation between your self-worth and someone else's behavior, this emotional boundary prevents you from absorbing their shortcomings as your own. It's a reminder that rejection or inconsistency is often more about the other person's limitations than about any lack in you. This shift in perspective is crucial because it stops the destructive cycle of self-blame and overthinking, which only fuels anxiety and undermines your confidence. This mindset also helps you avoid the trap of trying to fix or explain someone else's behavior. When you accept that their actions aren't personal, you stop wasting energy trying to decode mixed signals or read too much into silence. Instead, you view their behavior as data, information that tells you about their readiness, emotional capacity, or respect for you. You begin to see these moments as opportunities to protect yourself rather than signs that you need to change or work harder. Understanding that this isn't personal also means recognizing that not everyone is capable of seeing or appreciating your full value. Some people simply aren't the right match or aren't ready for the kind of connection you offer. Their inability to engage honestly or consistently has nothing to do with your worthiness. This realization frees you from the burden of trying to be enough for someone else's limited capacity. It allows you to stand firm in your truth and move forward with confidence. Furthermore, when you don't take things personally, you gain clarity and emotional resilience. You're less likely to be thrown off balance by rejection or disappointment because you understand it's not a reflection of your identity. This resilience makes dating less scary and more manageable because you know that you can handle whatever comes your way without losing your sense of self. You learn to see dating as a process of discovery rather than a judgment of your value. This mindset also encourages you to focus on relationships where respect, consistency, and genuine interest are present. Instead of clinging to someone who treats you inconsistently or withdraws, you can walk away without guilt or confusion. You recognize that their behavior is a form of communication, one that tells you what they are capable of giving, not what you are lacking. This clarity helps you avoid emotional entanglement with people who don't meet your standards and keeps you open to connections that are healthier and more fulfilling. In addition, embracing "this isn't personal" allows you to show compassion, both to yourself and others. You stop harshly judging yourself for perceived shortcomings and extend that grace to the other person's imperfections. You understand that everyone has their own struggles and limitations. This compassionate perspective doesn't mean you tolerate bad behavior. It means you don't carry the emotional weight of it on your shoulders. You protect your peace by recognizing the difference between what is yours to carry and what belongs to someone else. The freedom that comes from this mindset also fosters emotional independence. You begin to realize that your happiness and self-worth are not contingent on someone else's actions or feelings. You develop a stronger internal foundation that isn't shaken by external validation or rejection. This independence makes you more attractive because confidence and self-assurance are magnetic qualities. People are drawn to those who know their value and don't rely on others to define it. Ultimately, realizing that this isn't personal is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in the dating world. It transforms your experience from one of fear and self-doubt into one of empowerment and calm. You stop carrying the weight of others' actions as a reflection of your worth and instead see them as part of the complex dance of human relationships. This perspective allows you to stay grounded, protect your heart, and move forward with grace, knowing that your value is inherent and unshakable regardless of who stays or leaves. At the end of the day, stopping overthinking and starting to truly connect is about reclaiming your power in the dating world. It's about trusting yourself, setting clear boundaries, and understanding that your worth isn't defined by anyone else's actions or approval. When you embrace these mindsets, knowing you are enough, choosing who you want, letting things unfold naturally, valuing your time, recognizing you can always leave, and understanding it's not personal, you step into a space of calm confidence. This shift allows you to show up authentically, enjoy the process, and attract the kind of love that aligns with your true self. Remember, connection isn't about perfection or control. It's about presence, openness, and self-respect. When you stop overthinking and start connecting from that place, everything changes.